My heart pounded, not from excitement, but from a cold, hard dread. I stood in the fanciest store I'd ever seen, and a voice, sharp as glass, cut through the air. "We don't think you'll find anything here." Those words hit me like a slap. My name is Imani, and yes, I have been blessed, very blessed. My grandmother worked her fingers to the bone. My mother built on that foundation, and I took their legacy and grew it further. We weren't flashy people, we believed in quiet strength, in substance over show. That day I was looking for a special gift, a gift for my mother's 70th birthday. Something timeless, something that whispered elegance, not screamed for attention. This store, La Perle Rare, was supposed to be the place. It had a reputation for unique, beautiful pieces. I walked in, the air smelled like expensive perfume and old money. Marble floors gleamed under my feet. Soft lights made everything sparkle. It was very quiet, almost like a library, but for jewels. A young woman, perfectly dressed, with hair pulled back so tight it looked like it hurt, looked up from polishing a glass case. Her smile was bright. For a second, until she saw me, it faded. Fast, like a light switched off. "Can I help you?" she asked, but her eyes said something else entirely. They scanned me, up and down, from my simple, comfortable shoes, practical for a day of walking, to my plain, quality handbag. It wasn't the latest designer fad, but it was well made and understated, just like I preferred. "Yes, please," I said, my voice warm. I always try to be warm, even when I don't feel it back. "I'm looking for a special necklace." She didn't move from behind her counter. "For yourself?" she asked, a little tilt to her head. "No, it's for my mother. It's a very special occasion." She nodded slowly, her eyes still doing that quick, judging inventory. "Our pieces are quite an investment," she said. Each word seemed chosen to make me feel small. I felt a little sting, like a tiny needle prick. "I understand," I said, keeping my smile fixed. It felt a bit like a mask now. "Could you show me some options? Perhaps something with sapphires?" She waved a hand vaguely towards the glittering displays. "They're all in the display cases. You can look around." No offer to open them. No offer to show me anything specific. No questions about my mother's style or what kind of piece I was imagining. It was like I was an inconvenience. I walked to a case. My heart was still hopeful. A beautiful sapphire caught my eye. It was delicate, surrounded by tiny sparkling diamonds. Perfect. Understated but stunning. "This one is lovely," I said, pointing to it. She drifted over, her posture stiff. "That's the ocean's tear," she said. Her tone, it was like she was daring me to ask the price. "It's very exclusive." "May I see it, please?" I asked, my voice polite. She hesitated. Her eyes flicked to my handbag again, then back to my face. Then came the words. The ones that still echo in my mind sometimes. "Late at night. We don't think you'll find anything here. Perhaps another store would be more suitable for your budget." My breath caught in my throat. Suitable for my budget. She didn't know me. She didn't know anything about me. My mind raced. Did I look poor? Was my handbag not flashy enough? Was my simple dress an invitation for scorn? These thoughts swirled, making me feel dizzy, but deep down I knew. It wasn't just my clothes, it was more. And that more was what stung the most. Shame tried to creep in, hot and unwelcome. It whispered that maybe I didn't belong in a place like this. Then anger followed. A fierce, protective wave. For myself, for my mother, for my grandmother and all the dignity they stood for. I pushed it all down, hard. My mother taught me grace under pressure. "Breathe, Imani," I told myself silently. "Hold your head high. I believe I am the best judge of my budget," I said, my voice surprisingly level, though my hands were trembling slightly. "May I please see the necklace? Or perhaps your manager?" Her eyes narrowed. "Manager is very busy," she said, her voice turning colder. "I'm sure," I said, "but I insist." My insistence seemed to annoy her even more. Another sales assistant, older with a severe face and tightly pursed lips, glided over from a back room. She looked like she smelled something unpleasant. "Is there a problem, Chloe?" she asked the first assistant. "Chloe." The first assistant leaned in and whispered something. The older woman looked at me. Her gaze was even colder than Chloe's, if that was possible. It was like looking at a block of ice. "Madam," she said, her voice like crisp, dry leaves. We reserve the right to refuse service if we feel a customer is not a serious buyer. Not a serious buyer. The insult was clear. It wasn't subtle. It was a direct hit. Tears pricked my eyes. Hot and stinging. But I wouldn't let them fall. Not here. Not in front of these women. And what makes you think I'm not serious? I asked, my voice shaking a little now, despite my best efforts. The older woman, who I now guessed was the manager, just stared. It's store policy, she stated, as if that explained everything. Policy to judge people by their appearance? I pressed. My voice was getting a little louder. I could feel the blood rushing to my face. Policy to protect our valuable merchandise from those who are merely browsing without intent. She snapped back, her chin high. This was unreal. It felt like a bad dream. Like I had stepped back in time, to a place where such open disdain was normal. I have the means to purchase several items in this store, I said, trying to keep the tremor out of my voice. This treatment is unacceptable. It's deeply offensive. The manager actually smirked. A small, cruel twist of her lips. Many people say that, dear. My hand went to my phone in my handbag. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Record them? Call my lawyer? I just felt a desperate need to do something. Just then, the main door opened with a soft, musical chime. A woman entered. She was older, maybe in her late 60s, dressed impeccably in a classic, elegant suit, but with an air of kindness about her. She had striking silver hair, beautifully styled, and sharp, intelligent eyes that seemed to see everything. She looked around the store, a small frown appearing on her face as she saw the tension at the counter. The atmosphere was thick with it. The manager's demeanor changed instantly. Her icy expression melted into a syrupy fake smile. Madame Dubois, good morning, she chirped, her voice suddenly several notes higher. We weren't expecting you until this afternoon. Madame Dubois, the owner? My heart gave a little jump. This could either get much worse, or, maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for fairness. Chloe also straightened up, looking nervous, her earlier confidence vanishing. Madame Dubois' gaze swept over them, coolly, then landed on me. She saw the unshed tears in my eyes. She saw the rigid set of my jaw. She saw the hurt I was trying so hard to hide. Is everything all right here, Jeanine? Madame Dubois asked the manager. Her voice was calm, but with an unmistakable edge of authority. Just a slight misunderstanding, madam, Jeanine said smoothly, attempting a reassuring smile. This lady was admiring some pieces, but I'm afraid they are a little out of her reach. I was just explaining our collections. Out of her reach. Again, Madame Dubois looked at me, really looked, not at my clothes, or my handbag, but into my eyes. It was a searching look. I waited, my breath held. What would she do? Agree with her staff? Politely usher me out with a gentle apology for the misunderstanding? The silence stretched. It felt like an eternity. The ticking of a grandfather clock in the corner sounded unnaturally loud. Madame Dubois walked closer. She stood beside me, almost protectively, turning to face her staff. Out of her reach, she repeated, her voice soft, but dangerously so. And how did you determine that, Jeanine? Jeanine faltered. Her fake smile wavered. Well, madam, experience one learns to assess potential clients. Assess? Madame Dubois' voice was still quiet, but it held a new sharpness, like a honed blade. Assess what, exactly? The contents of her bank account by looking at her shoes? The value of her character by the label on her dress? Chloe looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. She stared at her feet. Jeanine's false smile was frozen, her face paling. Madame Dubois turned to me. Forgive me, mademoiselle, she said, her eyes kind, genuinely apologetic. I am Colette Dubois, the owner of this boutique. It seems my staff have made a grave error. A very grave error. Please tell me what happened, from the beginning. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I told her, simply, clearly, how I came in, hopeful and excited, how I was treated. The words Chloe used, the manager's confirmation of that judgment, the humiliation. As I spoke, I saw a flicker of something in Madame Dubois' eyes. Pain? Recognition? It was hard to tell, but she listened intently, her gaze never leaving my face. When I finished, she was silent for a moment. The air in the store crackled with unspoken things. She looked at Jeanine, then at Chloe. Is this true? she asked. Her voice was quiet again, but it carried immense weight. Chloe nodded miserably, tears welling in her eyes now. Jeanine tried to bluster. Madam, I was only trying to protect the store's interests. We get people in here all the time, who are just looking, wasting our time. It's hard to tell sometimes. Wasting your time. Madame Dubois interrupted, her voice no longer soft. It was strong, and filled with a deep disappointment that was somehow more cutting than outright anger. Our business is to serve customers. Every single person who walks through that door is a potential patron, deserving of respect, of courtesy, of a warm welcome. Is that not what I have always said? Is that not the very foundation of La Perle Rare? Jeanine looked down at her hands. Yes, madam. Her voice was a mere whisper. And yet, Madame Dubois continued, her voice rising slightly, laced with sorrow, and a steely resolve. You chose to humiliate this lady. You chose to judge her based on what? Your own narrow prejudices? Your own assumptions? She paused. The store was utterly silent. Even the soft classical music seemed to have faded away. You could hear a pin drop. Then Madame Dubois did something I never ever expected. She turned fully to me. Her eyes, which had been sharp with anger towards her staff, softened with an emotion I couldn't quite name. It was deep and sad. And something else too. Mademoiselle, she began, her voice now thick with feeling. Many years ago, when I was a young woman, much younger than you, I had a dream to create a place of beauty, filled with beautiful things. But I had nothing, just my designs, sketched on scraps of paper, and my hope. I walked into a fabric store, a very grand one in Paris. The owner, a man with a sour face and dismissive eyes, took one look at my simple dress, my worn shoes, and told me I was wasting his time. He told me I couldn't afford his silks. He told me to leave his prestigious establishment. My eyes widened. Everyone in the store, any other staff, who might have been in earshot, was listening, rapt. Chloe and Jeanine looked stunned. I remember the shame, Madame Dubois continued, her gaze distant for a moment, lost in a painful memory. It burned like a brand. I walked out of that store feeling so small, so worthless. The city lights seemed to mock me. My dreams felt like silly, childish fantasies. I almost gave up. I told myself, who was I, a poor girl with nothing but sketches, to dream of silks and pearls? But then, I stumbled upon a little shop, Esther's Fabrics. It was small, unassuming, but filled with color and light. And the owner, a kind old woman, she didn't see my worn shoes or my mended dress. She saw the desperation in my eyes. Yes, but also the spark of hope I was trying so hard to keep alive. She listened to my dreams for over an hour. She looked at my sketches with genuine interest. And then, she did the unthinkable. She gave me credit for my first bolts of the finest silk. She said, I believe in you, child. Go make something beautiful. Without her, La Perle Rare would not exist. Her faith was the first thread in everything I've built. She looked back at Jeanine and Chloe. Her face was etched with sorrow and a profound disappointment. This store, she said, her voice trembling slightly, this store was built on a promise I made to myself that day, a promise that no one would ever be made to feel that way within its walls, ever. And today, you two have broken that promise. You have brought that same ugliness, that same ignorant prejudice, into my store, into my dream. Jeanine started to speak, her voice desperate. Madam, I didn't mean I wouldn't. Enough. Madame Dubois' voice was suddenly steel, cold hard steel. You didn't mean to, or you didn't think. Which is it? Neither is acceptable. She took a deep breath, composing herself. Chloe, Jeanine, you are both dismissed. Effective immediately. Please collect your personal belongings from the back, and leave. Jeanine gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Chloe burst into tears, great gulping sobs. Madam, please, Jeanine begged, her earlier arrogance completely gone, replaced by panic. I have worked here for 10 years. My family, and in 10 years, you learned nothing of respect, of kindness, of the story behind this very business? Madame Dubois said sadly, her voice softer now but firm. I am truly sorry it has come to this. Believe me, this pains me greatly, but there are lines that cannot be crossed, and you crossed them with such carelessness. The two women, one crying openly, the other pale with shock and disbelief, slowly turned and moved towards the back office. The silence they left behind was heavy. Madame Dubois watched them go for a moment. Her face was pained, as if she truly felt their dismissal like a blow to herself. Then she turned to me, and this is what left me, and everyone else who would later hear about it, truly speechless. Madame Dubois' eyes searched mine again, this time with an incredible gentleness. Mademoiselle, your name please. I don't believe I caught it. Mimi, I said softly. My throat felt tight. Mimi Adebayo. A flicker of something unreadable crossed her face. Then her eyes widened, just slightly. A deep knowing look settled in them. Adebayo? She repeated, almost a whisper, as if the name itself held a powerful secret. Your grandmother, was her name, Esther Adebayo. My heart stopped. It literally felt like it stopped beating for a second. How could she possibly know? My grandmother had passed away several years ago. Yes, I managed, my voice barely audible. Yes, it was. Madame Dubois' eyes filled with tears, genuine heartfelt tears, that welled up and spilled down her cheeks. Oh my dear child, she said, her voice thick with emotion. She reached out and gently took both of my hands in hers. Her hands were warm and surprisingly strong. Your grandmother, Esther, she was the kind old woman. She was the one who owned that fabric store. She was the one who gave me my start. She believed in me when no one else in the world did. The world tilted on its axis. I couldn't speak. I just stared at her, my mind reeling. The pieces clicked into place with a dizzying, overwhelming rush. My grandmother had owned a small beloved fabric shop for many, many years. She told me stories of helping young designers, of giving them a chance, but she was always so humble, so modest. I never knew the true extent of her generosity, or who she had helped. I never knew this. Your grandmother's kindness, Madame Dubois said, her voice choked with tears, is the very soul of La Perle Rare. I named it the rare pearl in her honor. She used to say that finding true talent and a good heart in someone was like finding a rare pearl in a vast ocean. Tears were streaming down my face now, not tears of hurt anymore, or shame, but tears of, I don't even know what, awe, shock, disbelief, a deep, profound connection to a past I never fully understood until this very moment. She never told me. I whispered, my voice trembling. She never said anything about you, or this store. She was a humble woman. Madame Dubois smiled through her own tears. A true gem. She never sought recognition. And to think my staff would treat her granddaughter this way, in this place, a place that owes its existence to her. She shook her head, fresh pain in her eyes. It is an irony that wounds me deeply. They didn't know, I found myself saying, a strange instinct to defend them, or perhaps to lessen Madame Dubois' pain. It shouldn't matter if they knew, Madame Dubois said fiercely, her eyes flashing. Kindness should be for everyone. Respect should be for everyone. Not just for people we think are important or wealthy. She squeezed my hand. Mimi, this store, in many ways it belongs to the spirit of your grandmother. Today it has failed her, and it has failed you. And for that I am more sorry than words can ever express. She paused, then looked around the opulent store, at the glittering jewels and polished surfaces. This is not just about 2 employees. This is about a culture, a reminder of what truly matters. I will close the store for the rest of the day, and for all of tomorrow. We will have intensive training, not just on sales techniques, but on empathy, on respect, on the story of Esther Adebayo, and why La Perle Rare truly exists. Then she looked at me, a new resolve in her eyes, a plea almost. And Imani, I would be honored if you would come and speak to my remaining staff. If you would share what this experience felt like from your heart. Perhaps hearing it from you, from Esther's granddaughter, will make a difference that no amount of training from me ever could, to help them understand the real cost of such assumptions. Speechless. I was truly speechless. From the depths of humiliation and anger to this incredible heart-wrenching, unbelievable revelation. My mind was a whirlwind. Speak to them. Could I do that? Relive the humiliation in front of more strangers? But then I thought of my grandmother, Esther. I thought of her quiet strength, her unwavering belief in the good of people. I thought of Madame Dubois' courage, her vulnerability, and her deep desire to make things right. And I knew I had to. If my story could prevent even one other person from feeling what I felt, it would be worth it. Yes, I said, my voice still a little shaky. but firm with a newfound purpose. Yes, Madame Dubois, I will. She nodded, a grateful watery smile on her face. Madame Dubois then insisted, I choose any piece in the store. As a gift, not as an apology, she said, because some things couldn't be apologized for with money or jewels, but as a token of her enduring respect and gratitude for my grandmother, Esther, and for me, her granddaughter. At first I refused. It felt wrong. It felt like accepting payment for pain. But she was gently insistent. Esther gave me a gift that day that was priceless, she said, her voice soft. The gift of belief. The gift of a future. Please allow me to give you something small. In her beautiful memory, I finally chose the ocean's tear necklace. The one I'd first admired when I walked in. Not for its price, or its exclusivity, but because its deep, beautiful blue reminded me so much of my grandmother's eyes. Eyes that had seen so much, yet always held such profound kindness and wisdom. Madame Dubois herself carefully, reverently, placed it in a beautiful velvet box. As I left the store a little while later, the temporarily closed sign was already being prepared for the front door. The two dismissed employees were leaving through a side door, their faces grim and shadowed. I felt a strange pang of something for them, looking at their retreating figures. Not pity, exactly, but a deep sadness that they had let prejudice blind them so badly, and cost them so much. The next day, I returned to a very different La Perle Rare. The remaining staff were gathered in a small salon area at the back of the store. They looked apprehensive, nervous, some even a little resentful. Madame Dubois introduced me. She told them her story again, her voice filled with emotion as she spoke of my grandmother, Esther, and the kindness that had launched her dreams. Then I spoke. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I just told them how it felt. To walk into a place with hope and anticipation, only to be judged unworthy. To be dismissed, to be made to feel small and insignificant, based on nothing but an assumption. I spoke of the initial sting, the creeping shame, the anger, and then the deep sadness. I saw tears in some of their eyes. As I spoke, I saw dawning understanding in others. Some still looked uncomfortable, but they listened. It wasn't a magic fix. I knew that. Prejudice doesn't vanish overnight, with one speech or one emotional story, but it was a start. A powerful heartfelt start. A seed planted. Walking out of La Perle Rare that second day, I felt changed. The hurt was still a faint echo, a scar that would remind me, but it no longer throbbed with fresh pain. Stronger now was a sense of connection, a deep, unexpected connection to my grandmother's legacy, a legacy of quiet strength and transformative kindness I'd never fully grasped until now. A connection to a woman, Colette Dubois, who had faced her own moment of despair and prejudice, and had tried to build something better, even if humanity's flaws sometimes seeped in through the cracks. The world can be a harsh place. People can be cruel, often from ignorance, more than true malice. We build walls around our hearts, make quick judgments, and forget to see the real person standing before us, with their own stories, their own worth. But that day, and the day before, showed me something else too. It showed me that kindness can ripple through generations, an unstoppable current of good. That one good deed, like my grandmother's gentle faith in a young struggling dreamer, can bloom into something beautiful and unexpected. Decades later, touching lives in ways she could never have foreseen. It showed me that even in the face of ugliness, there can be amazing grace, and that sometimes, the most speechless moments are not born from shock or anger, but from the astonishing, unexpected beauty of the human heart, reaching out to another, bridging divides, and healing old wounds. It reminded me that we all have a choice, every single day, in how we treat others. We can choose to build walls, or we can choose to build bridges. Just like my grandmother Esther did, all those years ago, with a bolt of silk, and a heart full of faith. This experience taught me so much. What are your thoughts on what happened? Have you ever experienced something similar, or witnessed an unexpected act of kindness that changed everything? I'd love to read your stories and your perspectives in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel for more true stories, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Your support helps us bring more narratives like this to light. Thank you for listening.